That's funny. What's going on here? Hmm. Alright. Okay, so I'm getting on. I think I've got everything set up. If I don't, then I will get it going here in a second. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think we can be using this no more. Hmm. Okay. So let me see what's going on here. Yeah. I'm getting so frustrated with all these links and stuff. It's just getting. Everything seems to be screwy. So, I mean, for me, I can go back to Jitsi if I have to, but. Yeah, we are in the process now of getting everything hooked up and going, so I have absolutely no idea what's going on there. Odyssey is supposed to be running at the moment, so let me try to get everything hooked up and going. I know Rumble is already up, so there we go. Just took it a second. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go in and use Jitsi. It looks like Mark Edwardy's VoIP isn't working for me right now, so let's see here. Here we go. And I can get in here, hopefully. And we can get started. So let me go ahead and post what I do have. So far. Actually, I better take the whole copy. And come down here and get it set up. Do the Jitsi link separate than this. And today I just wanted to basically do a recap on a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, especially after we've gotten through legal positivism and natural law, and after going through talking about civil law and stuff like that, I think we need to just have a recap of everything. So today I'm just recapping on everything already discussed. Oh, excuse me. Just Realtime Talkshow event. Okay, so let's see here. Let's make sure I got everything going. Now I got a black screen, so let me make sure I got it, everything hooked up. It's showing me at least. Now I can do screen share. Yeah, here we go. Do some screen share. Hello.
Hi. Glad you jumped into Jesse. Looks like I'm having some sort of issues with my server.
Yeah, no, that's why I jumped into Jitsi. I went in there first and it was messing up, so.
Yeah, I sort of just rebooted the server just to see what's happening. I did an upgrade on it, an update on it on the weekend, and rebooted it. And yeah, something strange has gone on at the moment. I'll have to look at that later.
Well, I told you, and I forgot. I think we were having that interview with Austin, and I was like telling you back. I mean, something weird's happening to these VoIPs. They're just every one of them are screwing up. I mean, one right after the other.
Yeah, but that was Friday. My upgrade was done on Saturday. I don't know. I don't know.
I've been having these problems for like 2 or 3 weeks now, all the way through,
Yeah.
all the way through January. To be honest, as a matter of fact, it all started right after January started.
Mm.
So,
I think I'm going to have to look at update log files.
let me go and grab some coffee and stuff, and I'll come back in here. I kind of got off to a late start. I only woke up at like 9:30 my time, so I'm
Don't
like,
worry, I've just had a extremely late lunch.
okay.
Didn't get to sit down until about halfway.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, give me a second, and I'll be right back.
that's better. Ah. And relax. Oh, what afternoon. Mm. Ah, 443, isn't it? Okay, let's do 2 seconds. See what's on. It shouldn't make any difference. I don't know. Very strange. Oh, what happened there? It's on. About to establish signal trying to retry. It's all out for services. Okay. This one, okay. It's almost done. Let's see, test on that one. Okay, that works. Okay. That's strange. So what's going on there? Talk. Right, so let's just use that one instead. Oh, strange. So we go back to that one. It's done updated. Stuff, nothing. How odd. That is really strange.
Alright, I'm back.
That is really strange.
What's going on?
My other Nextcloud talk instance on my domain, Medweb, on I've got two Nextcloud instances set up on medworthy.co.uk. One for you, the live with Roger Hansen, and my own personal one. And just looking at my own personal one, I could connect to it. I could start up a live chat.
That's cool.
And the configuration is no more different than what is on yours. The configuration is almost the same, with a few minor differences.
Hmm. Oh, I know.
I'll have a look later.
Today I had a bit of a well. Today I had to. I ended up waking like up at 9:30 my time. That was like about 40 minutes ago. So I got on there, and I was like in a rush to try to get everything set up and ready. I
Mm,
got everything going, but now it's on Rumble and stuff like that. But now I got to record and everything, and like I went on
fun.
your links and stuff, and it was just shut down. So that's why I
Yeah,
went ahead and I just jumped up on the Jitsi
good
and
idea.
stuff.
Funnily enough, I didn't get any sleep last night. Went to bed at a fairly reasonable time. Just after I was talking to you on your and then I tried to get some sleep and I couldn't.
Well, today
For some reason.
I just basically wanted to do like a recap on what we've already gone over because like I've mentioned it before on the other streams and like John and them don't agree with me on it, but I think it's good to kind of recap on things that we've done and kind of go over it and where we're at. You know what I mean? Because like there's certain things that you can miss your on your conversation that later on you might want to talk about. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because we've already gone through some pretty interesting stuff, to be honest.
yeah, yeah.
You know, so I figured that's what we could do is just kind of recap a little bit and go over what we've done. I know I've already done a recap about halfway through, and right there, I was it was just before we went into civil law and everything,
Mm,
statutory laws and stuff, and I let me see here. So that's basically what I wanted to do is just do a recap. Um,
okay.
so because I the one thing that freaking I started out with was we were talking about Congress here in the United States and unlimited powers. You know, they call them plenary powers. Like the president has the right to pardon
Mm,
himself or anybody else at, at his wish. You know what I'm saying? And then Congress, they have plenary powers where they can freaking pass laws, levy taxes, you know, arrest people, wage wars and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then that that was one thing that I wanted to get into a little bit more was about freaking Congress's plenary powers. You know what I mean? Like they can set up these non-governmental organizations that
Mm,
are outside of the freaking constitutional law and get away with it. You know what I mean? So these unconstitutional freaking government organizations can do things that like uh, a government office can't do. Like the post office isn't able to freaking tax you for freaking their services. You know what I'm saying? It's against the law. You know, here in the United States, like they can't tax you for freaking sending mail the over the postal services. Now
They can,
they can charge you for
yeah,
the
I was going to
stamp.
say, yeah,
You know what I mean? But
they
they
can
can't.
charge you a fee. Yeah.
Yeah, but they can't tax you and stuff like that. Whereas they turn around and they create the IRS, which is a non-governmental entity, and the IRS can tax you freely, and they're not even supervised by it. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody overseeing them to make sure that they're freaking abiding by their own guidelines and laws. You know,
Okay. Okay. I thought the IRS would be answerable to Congress itself.
right? and they'd have the same powers that Congress has. Because
Okay.
what they do is they extend their powers through by creating charters with duplicity, and
Mm.
that's basically what they call it. It's and that's how they do it. They transfer their plenary powers over to the IRS, so the IRS has the same ability that frickin' Congress has. That means that they can frickin' levy taxes and they can frickin' arrest people. You know what I mean? I don't think they can declare war. That'd be a nightmare, don't you think?
That's cool.
the,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
IR, the IRS declares war because frickin' somebody's not paying their taxes. That'd be a nightmare.
If I remember correctly, I think it's the inland, well, the UK inland revenue, that can, it's the only people that can enter a property without warrant, or
Yep.
without warrant and without consent of the um, occupier.
And see, that brings up something I mentioned before with the frickin' Bill of Rights here in the United States, the first 10 amendments. I was talking, I think you were gone and I was going over it, but do you remember me talking about George Mason?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now like George Mason actually got up out of the freaking the Constitutional Convention, the first one when they were writing the Constitution, and he walked out
Mm.
because he didn't agree with what they were writing in the Constitution in the first place. Like the the first 10 amendments, it protect well for private property laws especially. Whenever frickin' he wanted it put in, he wanted it made to where the government didn't have the right to do that, you know. And
Mm.
that's one reason why whenever I talk about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, I always want to make it a point to say that they're two separate things. Because a lot of people mix them up. They think that they're one and the same, and they're not.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know.
Technically, the Constitution is based upon the Bill of Rights. It's based upon the British Bill of Rights.
Well,
The
the
1689 Bill of
the
Rights.
the Bill of Rights is actually an interesting story all on its own. Like a lot of people have no clue what that's about. Like it was the reverse, to be honest with you. The Constitution got written up, and they left out any kind of Bill of Rights. George Mason
Mm.
read the Bill of Rights, and a whole group of people actually read it, or not the Bill of Rights, but Congress, or oh man, my brain for the
The Constitution.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they didn't agree with it. Like, if you read the Constitution, there really isn't very many rights for the individual at all. It's really strange. I didn't recognize it until I got into what I'm about to talk about, and it's called the. Have you ever heard of the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist?
Rings a bell.
The Federalist
Uh,
Papers were written by everybody who agreed with the Constitution 100% by itself without the Bill of Rights. Now, the Anti Federalists were the ones who read the Constitution during the convention and got up and walked out. And the reason why is because they wanted these Bill of Rights written up before they agreed to sign it. So, um, there was a big dispute about these bills being written into law, and it caused such strain that George Mason and George Washington freaking never talked to one another again, and they grew up together. They were like best friends from childhood growing up, and
okay.
and it got so out of hand that their friendship was completely destroyed, and they never just talked to one another again over it. But it took from from the what was it, 1776 when the Constitution was written? Was it? I believe it was. No, yeah,
Mm,
1776.
yeah, yeah.
It took all the way up until 1780s, late 1780s, before they would put the Bill of Rights into into law. And the reason why they did it was because people who served on American ships afterwards were being freaking taken prisoner by the English because they would board American ships, and they found people on American ships that were supposed to be serving in the English Navy. They were subscripted into freaking being on the in the Navy, and since they didn't have Bill of Rights, those guys weren't protected, and they were actually taken into custody, and a lot of them freaking died in English prisons.
So technically, they were committing treason.
Mutiny.
So okay. No, I say treason because they are fighting. They're technically fighting for the other side.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Mm.
you could call it that, but also it's mutiny too because like freaking they were. Well, you know how it was back in those days, like freaking people.
It's not mutiny because it's not on a British ship.
Well,
If they were on a enemy, if they're on the um, US or the is the US, I suppose, in on an American ship, then they're not actually committing mutiny.
well, if they're supposed to be on an English ship and they're not on
Yeah,
it,
therefore it's treason and not mutiny.
yeah, it could be. I don't know. Actually,
Mm.
it's kind of a tricky gameplay there, like because
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Because like I mean, technically they were supposed to be serving the English Navy too, so that's kind of like what we term AWOL. You know what I mean? Absence without leave.
Fifth columnist, I
Yeah.
think, more like. Mm.
Well, that was how it was back then, and that's one reason why the Federalist government or the Federalists didn't agree with Bill of Rights because that's what the Bill of Rights are set up for with when it comes to the imperial governments with the
Mm.
ones that had the kings and queens because like the kings and queens would write Bill of Rights out for their subjects. Everybody in their country, they had the right, this right, and they had that right, and this right, but freaking, they didn't have this right or this right, you know. So
The Bill of Rights came from. No, it didn't, because it depends on how you look at it. If you look at it from the French perspective, then that was after the Revolution,
hmm
or if you look at it from the English perspective, then it was done by, again, after the British English Civil War, and was done by Parliament.
right, yeah. Now see, what, how I got the whole story behind it was like, okay, well, with the United States and their constitution, like everybody has, it's a God given right according to them. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
nobody, no human or no entity or anything is allowed to take our rights away from us. They're God given, and only God's allowed to take them away. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's the basic premise behind the Constitution and their rights. So it didn't go well over the founding fathers that you had these Bill of Rights that said that this is your right and this is your right. Because what that did is it said it gave the false impression that these were the only rights that you had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
when like a lot of people today, which I guess they were right about it, because a lot of people today do believe that. They believe that freaking they have to have amendments added to the freaking Bill of Rights, and they think that freaking those are the only rights they have, when the truth, that's not the truth whatsoever. Um, you're a free man as long as you don't break the law.
Uh, a
I mean,
free entity rather than free man, because
well,
again,
that's
the
what
free
that's
man.
basically what they termed it, though. You know what I mean? Like they didn't get
Mhm.
into the whole personhood thing. Like,
No, I'm not thinking of the. I'm thinking of the legal fiction argument.
right, exactly.
Mm, the
But
legalese.
well, I know we were discussing that too, which that actually kind of gets a little creepy if you stop and think about it. Like they're
Mm,
wanting to they're wanting to go in and freaking determine what a person is and shit. You know what I mean?
mm, mm.
So I mean,
When a company can be recognised as as a person these days.
and now AI is starting to be freaking looked at the same way. Like, what defines a person, and they're they're gonna start.
Actually, I'm not sure about the AI argument on personhood, because the argument at the moment is that the company that owns the software is the entity.
Well, I mean,
So let's say
they have,
Microsoft, Microsoft produces an AI, then the AI doesn't become an entity in itself. It is still owned by Microsoft.
but they have mentioned it though. I mean, it's been brought up occasionally, just a little bit. You know what I mean? They they
Mm,
don't
mm,
they don't like make a big discussion out of it, but like when they start talking about uh, the person being directly connected to free will, and
mm,
then they start talking about human volition, and human desires and stuff like that. I mean, what they're talking about. I mean,
mm, mm, mm.
it's I personally think that's something that's going to end up being discussed eventually. That and robots, like you're going to have a lot of androids running around with artificial intelligence and stuff. So
Again, I am very cautious about using the term artificial intelligence because of the conversations we've already had about that. Yeah, we're nowhere near sentient androids. I won't say robots because the Czech to English translation robots,
yeah.
a slave.
Well, it's like what was it? I can pull it up in my notes real quick. It says, yeah, here it is. It says about freaking what defines a person according to law. No, this according to the law is what defines a person, not because they are human, but because rights and duties are attributed to them. According to lawyers, this is what defines the natural person. Okay, so being uh, human doesn't define you as a person whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Like that that right there is what sticks out to me the most. I think, and people don't
Yeah,
realize either. Like with law, okay, everything depends on freaking language when it comes to law. You know,
indeed, yeah.
so if they've got language like that that's written up for law, something's in the pipeline. Like they're I know it sounds freaking almost sci-fi-ish or conspiracy theorist stuff, whatever, and
No, I can actually attribute that back to mines actually. This is one of those things that I keep, or I used to keep hearing about Bill talking about or related to the first, we uphold the First Amendment. How can you uphold the First Amendment when the wording of the First Amendment talks about government itself?
Well, Bill, okay, first of all, I
Mm.
actually went through and I listened to like the shit that he talks about. And don't get me wrong, at first he sounded pretty high minded, you know what I mean? But then I heard that freaking interview he did with Joe Rogan where he was talking about copyright laws and stuff like that.
Okay, I've got to remind myself of that one.
And,
Yeah, I sort of remember. Yeah.
and that's where he started showing himself, you know what I mean? Like for me, I can't believe somebody who says they stand behind the First Amendment and everything and then says that he doesn't think freaking copyright laws are needed, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't feel that freaking anything is original content. So when you put it on the internet, anybody can freaking just go in and steal the shit.
Well, I can understand some of his points about plagiarism, but hell, I like Bill a lot, but there's quite a few things I actually disagree with him on. Quite a few things. Yeah,
You
he's
know,
a idealist.
well, he
Yeah.
you know, like if you go and you do the work, okay, and you take the time to actually do the freaking work, and the stuff is even if it is from an idea you had from somebody who was 300 years ago, all right, that's still your work. You freaking put the time and effort into doing it. So you should be able to take claim for something you put into it. And even though it was inspired by something 300 years ago, that's still your work. It's completely different. It's not going to come out identical to what that person's
Well, yeah,
concepts
I
are.
was going to say as long as it's not a direct duplicate of the original.
You know, yeah, you know. So, I mean, for me, I think that kind of crosses the line on a lot of that stuff.
Mm.
So, like, I agree with you on that about the First Amendment and stuff, but I mean, I just kind of wanted to go farther on that. Like, there's a
Mm.
lot of
Mm.
things that he said that I didn't agree with either. And I'd like to like Bill, but he just he just needs to really kind of pull things together on a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah.
there's just some things freaking. And Joe Rogan, oh my god, dude. You know, like I I I even liked him at one time until freaking I started paying attention to some of the stuff he was talking about. Like he's just out there. He's just as far out there with a lot of the stuff. He doesn't want Congress at all. All he wants to do is set up like this internet freaking Congress where you can get on the computer and vote. A
Yeah, he's a
technocracy.
bit of a Warface. Yeah. Um, I've not watched that much Joe Rogan, but what I've watched of him, let's just say I'm in two minds about him.
Mine's button.
Hmm.
Did you say mine's
Mm.
button?
No, I'm in two minds about him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He he's an interesting guy. I know that much. Like I
Mm.
liked him back when he was a comedian and stuff, and he played on radio talk show, I believe it was.
Okay. Again, I wasn't familiar with him before his sort of internet
Yeah.
talk shows.
Well,
Sort of thing.
he was a TV personality and he was into comedy. I guess before that he was an MMA fighter as well. So,
Yeah, I've heard
you
that
know,
one. Yeah.
but that is one thing that I thought uh, that or a few things that I had a problem with when it comes to Joe Rogan and stuff, and Bill and everything they were discussing there, because I just you can't, especially being on mines and going through all the stuff that freaking's been going on from the time I've started. I remember freaking mines. You get on there and it was bustling. People were always having conversations in comment sections and stuff. And now it's like a
Mm,
ghost town. Nobody even wants to
I don't
talk to
know.
one
I don't
another.
know. I still. Yeah, I haven't posted very much time in the last month or so. But yeah, no, I still some interesting conversations.
You know what I'm talking about though. You remember like back in like 2018 and stuff. It was like people were
Yeah.
always freaking on there making comments, talking back and forth to one another. I still
Mm,
get people
mm.
that are willing to vote up my videos and stuff and like but they don't want to comment. It's like they're afraid to freaking say something on there because
I noticed that with the Minds user Minds user group. um, it used to be extremely busy, but if you have a look on that group now, it's only me and somebody else that publishes stuff on that.
mm, it's really weird, and I didn't know the whole thing about mines until after I got on chat and started interacting with everybody else and finding out all the crazy stuff that happened on here. Like this,
Okay, I've sort of been sort of active as far as sort of community sort of support community support since what 2017, so
yeah.
mid 2017.
So with the whole thing on what we were talking about with plenary powers too, over in the UK, do you guys have charters set up that freaking does watches over the prices for like energy and stuff like in your country?
There are ombuds,
Sets the prices and stuff like that.
government. No, they don't. Well, setting prices, that's a private sector issue, isn't it? We don't live in a communist country. Oh, not
we,
yet,
we, we,
anyway.
we
Well,
call it the Department of Energy, actually.
do they set prices though, or do they
Yeah,
just sort of keep
that's
the sort of level playing field?
they set the prices, and
Okay.
they freaking have no review whatsoever. I mean, like
Okay.
they just they the Congress created a charter. They called it the Department of Energy. Department of
Mm.
Energy freaking sets the prices on electricity and all the energy prices and stuff like natural fuels
Mm.
and stuff of
As
that
far as
nature.
price costs are concerned, that's a fairly private sector sort of, or mainly private sector sort of thing. I'm thinking of things like transport for London bridges and well,
Well,
it's a kind of it's a quasi semi sort of government organisation. So
well,
an NGO, or
that
not an
goes.
NGO, but Tango.
You're right. It's an NGO because it's like I said before. It's
No, there's
illegal.
a there's a slight difference between well, what would be considered as a Krango in this country and an NGO. NGOs are more charity related.
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
real
yeah.
charity related.
There there would be the equivalent of a 501 in the US.
um, the Social Security office is a non-governmental organization, right? Like,
In the UK, it is a government agency.
Well, you guys freaking don't have any problem with your or with your government freaking doing stuff like taxing on freaking citizens.
Yeah, we don't have any
You don't
problem
have
at
any
all.
problem with that. See,
Yeah.
here,
Right.
here we have it written in the
I'm going to
laws.
disagree. I'm going to heavily, strongly disagree with that one.
See, we
Yeah.
dropped. We dropped T in the bay because we were freaking rebelling against that stuff.
Well, there was one argument on Brexit. Becoming a sovereign country yet again, so we can do things like define our own tax legislation, and especially at the moment when you're considering the sort of closer union as far as the EU is concerned. At the moment, there's even talk about having a single federal sort of federal style sort of tax policy in the EU.
See, I mean, when that comes back to the budget too. It always does, and it's like whenever you freaking turn around and you well, we were talking about that too. Where freaking like in developing countries, you know what I'm saying? Um, it's like with the court systems and the judiciary. Okay, in these
Mm.
smaller countries, in developing countries, it's always usually freaking controlled by the freaking executive branch. You know what I mean? Like the
Mm.
president or freaking whoever is in charge, like the king or whatever you'd consider your executive branch in that country. And that's
It
how
would
they.
still be the house. It would still be Parliament,
Yeah. No, I mean,
technically in this country.
no. Parliament is a part of. The executive branch is like the president
Oh
or
no!
or
In this case, it would still be the government.
the prime minister, most likely.
The government, because the prime minister is as part of the government.
Like
It's very rare that the prime minister decides something without the say
that's
so of the government.
that's what the president does too. Like they don't really have very much power. You guys always hear
Mm.
about the president, but he doesn't have shit for power. You know, when I talk to people on here and they always talk about how freaking great or how bad this president is, I'm like telling them, look, dude, like the president doesn't have shit for freaking power. The people who are really
Mm.
doing all the bad stuff is guys in Congress, which would be the equivalents of the Parliament over there in the UK. You know what I mean? Like if you want to start bitching at the bad guys, start bitching at people in Congress, not the people who are in the freaking president's chair.
As far as the UK is concerned, um, well, as far as England and Great Britain as a whole, Scotland as a single body and Northern Ireland and Wales as a single body, it's a bit more complicated. But as far as the UK as a whole is concerned, um, um, the government creates legislation or creates bills which then is referred to the House of Lords and then gets bounced back, and that can happen up to 3 times. And
Mm-hmm.
then if that bill is approved, then it goes to the monarch to get, in effect, rubber stamped,
Okay.
and then it becomes an act.
So then the king or the queen would be your guys' equivalents of executive branch then. If
Technically, yes, but it's more of a rubber stamp and just a sort of
are you saying that
tick box exercise these days.
you saying that your royalty is afraid of the parliament? Like they're afraid that they're going to get their heads cut off?
Well, I've always had this theory that the last queen the sort of English Civil War concept jumped into her head, and that sort of caused some sort of situation where she believed that she had very little power, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what happened too, because I think they limited their power. It was like we've had that that conversation about Cromwell, you know,
Mm, mm.
and like that. The reason why I don't feel the same way about Cromwell as what you do is because I know the truth. You know what I mean? Like
Okay. Okay.
the reason why he got so fanatical was because after freaking these guys freaking fought for your guys' independence and they wanted to have a free country, these old nobles came back to him and wanted to make him king of England, and they also wanted to go back to a monarchy. So that's what ended up happening between him and these nobles. And that's why he got so harsh on his laws and everything. Because after freaking this revolution, they didn't freaking even want what they had gotten. They didn't want to be a free country. I gotta let this.
Yeah, but there's also the issue of the sort of there's also the theologian issue there, where he, um, we were still a well we, we were and still are technically a Protestant country, or were a Protestant country, rather than being ruled by the Church of Rome.
Yeah, well, that is kind of what we need to go into next, anyhow, when it comes to these freaking codes, codification and stuff like that.
Mm.
Like, when that's something that I know I covered about compilations and codifications, and we have permanent federal laws, which are statutory laws. You know what I mean? Like these, after they become freaking statutory laws, they're permanent, and the only way they can be replaced is if they're replaced with another law that's better. You know what I mean? Like you just can't delete these laws, say that they're gone. And um, that's that's the one thing that freaking I always bring up, because a lot of people don't realize that. Like for example, if a crime happened back in 1960s, okay, which was a
Mm.
bad time when it comes to civil rights, where black people were being freaking killed in the South, and stuff like that. If a black person got killed in the South, there was a chance that the laws in that time period in that state only made it to where if the Klan member got busted, he would only serve maybe 6 years in prison for killing a black man. So
Okay.
even though it's the year 2024, if that freaking Klans member got busted, he would still only freaking be charged with 6 years in prison rather than a death sentence or a life sentence for his crime, because they have to go according to the laws of that time period.
Okay, so I was just thinking with respect of legislation, if a law has changed and and it's been an ongoing case for 40, 50 years. No, would he still be charged? Would he still be sentenced under the original act?
Of that time period. Like,
Mm.
if the crime was committed back in the 60s, they have to go according to the laws of the 60s. So that means they would have to be
Okay.
charged with. They would have to freaking. Yeah, they would have to be sentenced according to the laws of that time period and not the laws of today.
I'm not sure if that's true in the UK.
It's
I would definitely think about one.
it's and that's the
Mm,
one thing about the code systems. It's like there's a lot of things that freaking people aren't aware of. Like today, whenever everybody wants this law put into place, like quickety split or however you want to say, they want it done fast. I
mm,
respect people in Congress who freaking take time and freaking make sure that the laws freaking actually, looked at. And I don't like the idea of freaking laws being passed through Congress as fast as what they get passed through. Like
yeah, I'm just thinking. I've been following the debate on the latest. I can't remember what's it called now. The latest UK internet um, encryption bill that is going through Parliament at the moment, and how that is being sort of moved extremely fast.
yeah. I mean, and
Mm,
it's been happening a lot in a lot of countries. Like they're wanting to push these laws, and I'm not a Republican here in the United States. I'm not a Republican by any means. I do have a bit of conservative in me, but
mm,
I'm not freaking a Republican. And this guy Mitch McConnell, everybody keeps talking shit about. Like, there's laws that he straight out freaking have said, or these bills that came through Congress, he straight shut them down. You know what I mean? And I understand his whole philosophy behind it because they want to freaking just pass it through Congress like it's no big deal. Let's just get it in there and get it over with, And he's one of those people that says, no, let's slow it down some. You know what I mean?
mm, mm.
Um, and people who freaking think like that don't understand what the consequences of their actions are. You know what I'm saying? You want to speed a law through Congress freaking today, it's going to affect you 20 or 30 years from now, you know?
Yeah, or if not, could affect you tomorrow once the laws become a bill.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
or
even
be, yeah,
even if that law
becoming a.
changes, even if that law changes, though, the time period that's going on where that law's in effect, like it say from this point on, you create a law, and from this point to 5 6 years from now, okay, that law's
Mm,
in effect, and then it's changed. In between this time period and 6 years from now, anything that frickin' happens during that time uh can be freaking gone according to the law that was set down during that time period, not anything after. You know what I mean? Like I was
mm,
saying with
mm.
the freaking the murders and stuff in the southern part of the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
People can literally get away with murdering somebody back in the 1960s because of statutory laws. State codes and shit like that. And that's the one thing that stuck out to me.
Mm,
When we were that was something that really should have been brought up too. That I freaking wanted to talk about, and I keep forgetting too. Because there's so many things, man. That it's like a son of Noana.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up was because she got on chat and she was discussing people like being freaking not really being a person, just basically your birth certificate is freaking like a, a receipt for freaking some shit, you know what I mean? And uh, people who aren't
Mhm.
really, conspiracy theorist focused usually call that the straw man fallacy here in the United States. And like
Mhm.
the straw man is the invisible guy that was created by government. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the straw man is your social security defines who you are, not you as a person. Basically, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
the legalese fiction
yeah,
character. Yeah.
you know what I mean. And like when you take and you look at a lot of this stuff and you actually dive into it, that's not far from the truth. You know what I mean? Like if you turn around and you actually take an honest look at a lot of these laws and you see what's going on there, freaking, they really don't want the individual real person to freaking take a part in it. They want you to be a fictional freaking character. You know what I mean? Like, laws, first of all, aren't physical. They're not real. You know what I mean? They're just things that we freaking invent and bring up, and they're invisible and they're freaking not concrete. You know what I mean? Unless somebody engraves it in stone somewhere. But that's about it. You know?
There's laws that the majority agree with. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Right.
concepts that the majority agree with. Um, the alternative would be revolution, wouldn't it?
Well, revolution is what brought about constitutions. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
freaking
Well, yeah, more modern equivalent, a new modern equivalent of revolutions.
we had
Not that I'm saying that we need one, but
and I even have my theories too. Like the things that occurred after World War II were kind of suspicious in my opinions too, because like a lot of this socialism that we have problems with now, seems to have cropped up more after World War II. And
yeah, this goes back to the sort of Frankfurt school of philosophy.
yeah,
Yeah, Frankfurt School of, or as there's a common sort of say, or well, there's a saying in the UK that I've used quite a few times: the sort of long march through the institutions.
hmm well,
Um,
you look at it, okay, like all the people that were on the Axis side, which a lot of people always talk about World War II and they want to bring up the Allies. Okay, well, let's look at the Axis. Let's look at the other side. Who were the majority of people on the Axis side? They were freaking the empires, the old empires from before. You know what I mean? And if you stretch it both World War I and World War II together, you can see it more clearly. You know what I mean? You had the Ottoman Empire, you had the freaking Russian Empire, you had freaking Prussia, which is Germany now, but
yeah,
you had all these empires, and then you had freaking Karl Marx, and you had the socialists coming out of Germany and France. You know,
but this stems from, as you say, World War One, with socialism, the creation of communism, and the Bolsheviks. But arguably that stems back from the Napoleonic Wars, in which Napoleon tried to take over the majority of Europe, which in turn stems back to the French Revolution.
well, John Jacques Rousseau. I've already told you, I
Mm.
don't trust a thing that dude ever wrote. Okay, that guy was
Mm.
he was a freaking communist in the making. You know, I mean, he's the one that first started, crazy shit about child freaking uh what was it, where setting up textbooks and stuff where you freaking had child rearing. Okay, that
Mm.
was one of the first people to do that, and then he also started talking about freaking private property. Like he was against it. You know what I mean? He didn't like the idea of freaking just ordinary people like me and you owning private property. He thought that it should be owned by the state.
Yeah, but wasn't half of his argument about the aristocracy owning private property, and therefore it should be owned by the people, which in turn is the state.
It wouldn't that be technically a communist slash socialist state? I mean, like the People's Republic
Yeah.
of China. You know what I mean? Like freaking that's basically like the definition of socialism right there. You know, I mean, pretty much. I think he's where it all freaking started. To be honest with you, I mean, I have no problem with saying it. I think he was one of the first freaking socialists to write that shit down. You know, a lot of stuff points that direction. I mean, it really does. He wasn't that great. Everybody thinks he was, but he wasn't. And you got to remember, the French Revolution was horrible. Like there was nothing good that came out of that revolution. What's it? People
I don't know,
freaking
liberty, freedom, and fraternity.
no, that
Viva la.
came out of freaking England and freaking whenever John Locke cut off your king's head. You know, that's where it started. Jean Jacques Rousseau freaking created the French Revolution, which was years of freaking death squads and shit. If you remember that, don't you? I mean, they hunted.
Well, I don't remember it, but yeah.
I mean,
But
you've
yeah, I'm
heard
aware
of
of it. I'm not that old.
it. Yeah, you know, like this wasn't people freaking like winning a war and freaking being all happy about it and shit. These were people who freaking won a war, then hunted down their freaking royalty and started massacring them. Then it went from the royalty to freaking anybody that was in any kind of government office. And they just started going down the chain.
As far as the royalty was concerned, the royalties attempt to escape France was a disaster anyway. It was an idiotic attempt anyway.
It was horrible, and I think they ended up having to write two freaking constitutions, didn't they? Because the first one was crazy as hell.
I'm not sure. Seem to remember something about that, but
they had to rewrite their constitution, and then I know none of that got straightened out until Napoleon came into office. He's the one who actually set them straight. And he was demonized. Everybody makes him out to be like he was such a horrible person. He actually created structure in France. You know.
Yeah. When he came back after his imprisonment, the story prior to Waterloo, where the troops had a choice of either joining them or staying with the existing regime, and the troops deciding to actually join them.
No, but he was against the banking system. I know that's one thing that really impressed a lot of the people because, like we were talking about before, where, now today you hear freaking everybody talking. They're like, oh, you got to put your money in the bank. You know what I mean? You don't got to do shit, dude. Like, like everybody has this idea that freaking in order for you to do good, you have to freaking have all your money freaking in somebody else's hands, and that was actually freaking brainwashed into people's minds to where they believe that, and the people who did it was the banks, and Like, Napoleon was against these guys. Napoleon didn't freaking like the banking systems because he knew what they were. He knew that they were freaking evil. You know what I mean?
Mm.
All the bad shit that freaking was happening during the time had to do with banks. You know, everything. And you look at the stuff today, and you see what's going on. You can't tell me that freaking these bankers aren't the ones that are involved with it. You know what I mean? But nobody wants to hear
Mhm.
that. They want to say, "Oh no, it's not because of the bankers up there with billions of dollars and freaking investing in every little thing you know that it's in the stock market and shit." They're not responsible for none of that. They're just little dudes that hang out at frickin' the stock market. That's all they do. They don't have no power.
Mm.
You know.
Mm.
So, what do you think about all that craziness? I do.
Well,
I think people underestimate frickin' the frickin' bankers, and
mm,
that's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? I think it's something that
yeah.
should be looked at, and I believe they have more power because of like these NGOs and shit. You know what I mean? Like you take a look at like the freaking taxes that are put on the oil companies. Okay, the oil
Mm.
companies freaking turn around and they get taxed like 7 times more than freaking what these electric companies do. All right, because they deal in oil. All right, but like companies like General Electric can freaking go and they can build freaking nuclear power plants that freaking blow up, and all their freaking toxic freaking shit spills out
Not
into
so
the water.
sure.
and, and
When
the,
was the last major nuclear explosion?
Japan.
Um,
It was
well, yeah,
Japan.
I was just thinking. But
But my whole point is
I,
they're only getting taxed like a seventh as much as what frickin' these oil companies are. You know what I mean? So in order for frickin' the United States to frickin' pull back in the revenue from these frickin' companies, they frickin' charge them outrageous taxes. Okay, so in reality, the reason why we're getting like insane gas prices is because the United States has allowed them to add the taxes onto the frickin' charge at the gas pump.
there's two issues there, isn't there? There's the issue of organisations like OPEC
Mm-hmm.
controlling monopolies, and also in the US, you've got your own oil and gas supplies, which is still relatively cheap internally than compared to selling outside of the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, they shut North American pipeline down. Like
Mm.
that's what the
Mm.
United States was banking on.
Technically, we are still getting in the UK and Europe, still getting things like gas from Russia,
Yeah.
um, even though it's gone through proxies. Um, if you follow the money trail, still goes back to Russia. We are still
Third party
supporting.
proxies.
Yeah, we're still supporting Russia, especially in relation to Ukraine. We are publicly supporting Ukraine, but in reality, money's still going to Russia.
Mm-hmm. It's all about competition. That's all it is to them. Like freaking in the needs. You know what I mean? The wants and the needs. Like
Mm.
with I started learning a lot of that stuff when it comes to the oil companies, especially when it came to after the incident with OPEC. Whenever freaking we were having the issues back in 1980, which a lot of people
Mm.
don't remember. Like it,
Oh,
you know.
what the sort of golden brown black Friday? Oh no, actually it was before golden brown, wasn't it?
Mm,
Black Friday or Black Monday?
it actually started like in 1978 and didn't end until
Yeah. Oh, actually,
1982.
it goes back. It goes back to something like 1972, with things like the miners' strikes
Hmm. Well,
in the UK.
the Arabs too, freaking
Oh
they
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean, when they basically boycotted the Western world from oil, basically. Like I know England got
And
hit.
hence our support, both the US and the British and the French support of the overthrow of the monarch in Iran in 1979.
Hmm.
And for the sort of theologic, to put it, install a theologic government, which only a couple of days after that government came in, there was the chance of death to America.
Hmm. Well, if you remember too, though, they also finally set up their networks to where instead of getting oil from the Middle East like we were doing for a really long time, they started changing directions to freaking going into Argentina and Venezuela, and then freaking there's also Africa. They were going into those countries to do my oil drilling in like third world countries, and then later
uh,
they.
which we which which resulted in what we now call the BRICS
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
organization.
They were
Uh,
setting up freaking like corrupt governments and shit over there.
and arguably, this goes actually further back into the creation of the modern UAE, and this is related to the creation of Palestine
Hmm.
and the Israel, Jordan, Egypt wars of the 60s and
See, for
things
me,
like that.
I think that's all related to World War I and World War II, dude. Like
Mm, mm,
this stuff all goes back, and like the rebuilding of Europe after World War II, especially. Okay, you can
mm.
see where the socialist programs just started getting put in, and frickin' what's his name, Warburg. Okay, a lot of people don't understand how much power the Warburgs had because the Warburgs started in frickin' Germany during World War I, and they moved to New York, and then some of them
Mm.
stayed in Europe. Well, one of the Warburgs in the Warburg family was actually a part of helping rebuild Europe after freaking World War II. Okay, and he was hardcore socialist. So you had all of these socialist programs that were bam put in place because they were all being restructured and rebuilt by England and by freaking America. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So,
And Russia up to a point as well.
well, they built the
Russia
wall.
being the big, yeah, being the one of the big players after World War Two.
They built the wall, so everything on the west side, I think, no, the east side, that was all Russia's stuff, and then everything on
Mm,
the
mm,
west side was us. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
that was the Cold War, which is another good subject right there too. But I just,
Mm,
and every time I read history of all this stuff, I mean, it just tells me there was something going on where they freaking wanted to take out the old empires and bring in the new socialist regime, which it's been slowly being put into place since then.
Yeah.
And
And the I remember the long march.
hmm it's like
Mm.
that's the thing. Like we were talking at the beginning of this, about freaking
Mm.
personhood and stuff. Just the fact that they're trying to freaking come up with some philosophical conversation about what is the person is suspicious. You know what I mean? I mean, doesn't that kind of sit freaking wrong in your mind that people are actually just even talking about it?
Mm. Mm.
No,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I was wondering what you were gonna
There's a,
say. I mean, it
there's
is.
a,
It's
yeah.
fucked up, isn't it? It really is. Stop and think about that. That's screwed up. Like, why are we even talking about that shit? You know,
Mm.
like, it's crazy, but it's true. I mean, I know it's crazy, but it's something that needs to be asked. Why the hell are they even having that conversation? What's their plans? Why is it so important that we have to define what a person is?
Yeah, goes back to the sort of technocratic um, or oligarchy
Hmm
sort of argument.
It's crazy. Well, it looks like we've been on for a while, and I forgot to hit record. I think I'm not. I can't. But I've got copies of this I can download and edit and
Okay,
and stuff like
cool,
that. So
cool.
I I think we did good on covering an hour though. We did a really good job of
Mm.
that. Um, And like I said, I just wanted to recap on some of this stuff because, like what we were talking about today, we were actually getting kind of into the last episode. You know what I mean? So it
Mm.
was good to kind of go over. Well, not the last ep. It was the episode before that with Robot, I think.
Yeah. I was hoping they would actually join us on this one. Um,
He doesn't. He doesn't actually want to
mm.
talk about it on stream. He wants to run his mouth in chat, and that's about it. He never commits. He's a rebel like that. He's a
Okay.
rebel like that. The robot. I'm the robot,
Mm.
don't you know?
So he's calling himself again going back to the Czech translation. He's calling himself Mr. Slave.
Oh my god.
If you
Fine.
think about it,
Oh my
yeah.
god. He's something else. So he's
I
not Mr. Robot
wonder if
now.
he realizes that actually.
Freaking
Yeah.
nuts. Okay, so I'll go ahead and end this, and we
Mm.
will be back here next week and everything. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. And I enjoyed this week actually. I think we should do this, like go back and review our stuff, kind of re-catch up on some of the old stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So with that, I'm gonna
Oh,
end it. Huh?
yeah. And I'll chat with you afterwards.
All right. I will. I'll end this, and we can talk a little bit later, or a little bit more after this. I'll be right back.